What's up, sports fans? This is the Lucas Ross Sports Channel. It is time to give you my upset alert games heading into week number 10 of the 2024 college football season. Heading into the first weekend of the month of November, this is usually where the upsets start to happen. And, usually in the month of November, there's really big upsets. And there's just a lot of chaos because we do have the first college football playoff rankings coming out next Tuesday night. Not this Tuesday night, which is, of course, from yesterday. Next week is Tuesday night when the first playoff rankings come out on election night. So I'm going to give you my upset alert games heading into week number 10. And last week, we didn't have any upsets. Out of the 8 games that I picked from last week, we didn't have any upsets that turned out to be upsets. So it was kind of a quiet week. And, it's kind of been a quiet couple weeks, in a row. The last couple weeks in the month of October were really quiet. As we head into the month of November, I think we could see a lot of upsets. There's a big weekend of college football coming up this weekend. We have a bunch of great games, and I think some of these games could turn out to be upsets. And what we do is we take 8 games total, 4 games each, and pick out 4 of the games that are most likely to be upsets, and then 4 games that are, least likely to be upsets. And in order for me to call it a most likely upset alert game, the spread has to be in single digits. So let's go ahead and get right into it. We'll start from the least likely upset alert category and work our way to the most likely. We'll start here with the least likely, though. And we're going to start with this game, Florida and Georgia at 3:30 Eastern Time on ABC. Georgia favored by 16.5, and the over and under is at 52.5. So that spread doesn't really shock me. Georgia definitely is the better team going into this rivalry game. Georgia's really dominated the series as of late. They've dominated the series now for the last 3 years. They've won the last 3 meetings. The last loss for Georgia came against this Florida team in 2020. That was the last time Florida actually was really good. And, Florida, they're not a bad team. They're sitting there at 4-3. So you're probably, saying that Florida's not very good. But no, this team has gotten better. And both of these teams are coming out of bye weeks. It seems like they get a bye week before they play each other. So it kind of gives them a little bit of time before they play their rival and everything. And this time it's an ABC game. It's not a CBS kickoff anymore. I am going to miss, the Georgia and Florida games on CBS. But the ABC game should be pretty exciting. 3:30 Eastern Time, though, it's still kind of like the same kickoff, but it's just on a different TV channel. And again, Georgia is favored by 16.5. I don't really expect an upset here to happen. It seems like when Florida has played Georgia in the last 3 meetings, it seems like they compete in the first quarter, but then it's all Georgia from there for the rest of the game. It ends up being like a blowout. No Graham Mertz in this game, of course. DJ Lagway takes over. Does he give Georgia's defense a little bit of trouble with his running game? I really don't know. I think Georgia's defense will be ready to go in this one. They had a great performance a couple weeks ago. So yeah, Georgia and Florida, 3:30 Eastern Time on ABC. Big rivalry game here, and Georgia's favored by 16.5. Next up, we got another rivalry game in the SEC, Kentucky and Tennessee. This one's at 7:45 Eastern Time on the SEC Network. Tennessee also favored by 16.5, so kind of like similar to the Georgia game. Tennessee, though, is playing at home in this one, and the over and under is at 45.5. Tennessee had a bye week this past weekend, but they're coming off that win over Alabama a couple weeks ago. So Tennessee's kind of had some, time off after taking a physical beating from Alabama. It was a really physical game, a competitive game, pretty much the entire way. Tennessee, it looks like they have gotten better ever since the loss to Arkansas, and they're ranked number 7 in the AP poll. They're taking on their rival Kentucky. Tennessee's dominated this series as of late, ever since Josh Heupel got here. Kentucky, is their season over? Have they given up here the rest of the way? I really don't know. In a rivalry game like this, Kentucky might be fired up. I mean, it's a game that probably could be a really, really emotional game here for Kentucky. They're going to try to do everything they can to pull off a big upset here, but I don't think it will happen. It's in Knoxville. It's one of the toughest places to play in the SEC, and Kentucky has just been an up-and-down team. They're coming off a disappointing loss to Auburn last week, and they did not play that well. The quarterback position has been a big struggle. The offensive line continues to be a struggle, so I really don't think this game's all that close, and I don't really think an upset here happens. Tennessee favored by 16.5. They're playing at home. I don't think an upset here happens, so this one's at 7:45 Eastern Time on the SEC Network. Next up, Oregon at Michigan, 3:30 Eastern Time on CBS, so this will be the CBS 3:30 kickoff time. Oregon's favored by 14.5, and the over and under is at 45.5. You got Oregon, the number 1 ranked team in the country and possibly the best team in the country as we head into the month of November. They're undefeated. They got a big win against Ohio State already. They're taking on another kind of tough competition here, and this time it will be on the road here at Michigan. Michigan's not a bad team. Michigan's not really a bad team. They're sitting there at 5-3. They're coming off a big win over a rivalry game in Michigan State. So yeah, this game definitely could probably go not either way because Oregon definitely is the better team here. I really don't think an upset will happen even though it's at Ann Arbor. It's one of the toughest places to play. This actually will be Oregon's kind of first true road game of the season. They haven't had that kind of road game this year. And, Michigan obviously could probably give Oregon a little bit of trouble. They could probably try to run the football. But like I said, I don't think an upset will happen here. Oregon probably wins this one by 10 to 14 points, maybe somewhere in that range. But this will be the CBS 3:30 kickoff time, and Oregon's favored by 14.5. And then my last least likely upset alert game, it's in the ACC, Louisville and Clemson. 7:30 Eastern time on ESPN. Clemson favored by 11. And the over and under is at 61.5. You got Louisville that's coming off a big win over Boston College from this past weekend. They came back from behind and won that game. And this is a Louisville team that's 5-3, so they may not be really that good. They're not a great team, but they're pretty solid. So yeah, Louisville looks like they're getting better as the season goes along. And then you got Clemson here. They got the home field advantage in this one, and they're playing at home. And Clemson's coming out of a bye week, so they've had some time to prepare here for this game. But Louisville's also kind of had some time. They played on a Friday night, but Clemson definitely has an advantage because they had a bye week, and plus they're playing at home in this one. It's a very tough place to play at Death Valley at Clemson, South Carolina. And plus this game is at 7:30, so it's a night game. It's going to be a really tough place to play and also a really loud crowd that Louisville will face. I don't really think an upset will happen here either, but it's in the ACC. Clemson, a couple weeks ago did not play against Virginia that well, but we'll see if Clemson's defense can make a difference and see if that offense continues to be explosive like they've been this year. So yeah, this is my last least likely upset alert game. Clemson and Louisville at 7:30 Eastern time on ESPN. Let's now get into the most likely upset alert games for this weekend. And first off, we got Pittsburgh and SMU. This one's at 8 o'clock Eastern time on the ACC network. SMU favored by 7.5. And the over and under is at 59.5. You got a top 25 matchup here in the ACC. Two teams that are undefeated in conference play. But you got Pittsburgh that's undefeated. SMU with one loss to BYU. And both of these teams just continue to be not very surprised teams. Pittsburgh's kind of, surprised a lot of people, but SMU, I kind of expected them to be right where they are, where they're at this weekend. But this is going to be a good one. It's going to be a competitive game. You got Pittsburgh that's coming off a big win over Syracuse, 41-13. I thought that would be a really tough competition for Pittsburgh, but either way, they just played lights out in that game. Their defense played pretty well. I think you've got to put SMU here on upset alert because SMU is playing at home in this one. That's the good news there. But I'm telling you, this Pittsburgh team, I think they're going to come out really fired up and really focused. And they've had a lot of time to prepare for this game because they played on a Thursday night last week, and SMU played on a Saturday. And they're coming off that really, close game against Duke on the road. So, yeah, definitely put SMU here on upset alert for this weekend. And I think this game will definitely tell us a lot about the Panthers. Are they good? Are they for real? Are they like an ACC championship contender? We'll find out here in this game this weekend, but it's at 8 o'clock Eastern time on the ACC network. Next, we got Ole Miss at Arkansas. This one's at noon Eastern time on ESPN. Ole Miss favored by 6.5, and the over and under is at 53.5. You got Ole Miss that was back in action from this past weekend after a couple weeks ago they lost to LSU, but they came back from behind. Had a very tough competitive hard-fought game against, Oklahoma last week. They were able to win that game 26-14, but I'm just saying it wasn't really a good performance, but they took on a really good Oklahoma defense, but Ole Miss's defense kind of made the difference. We know Oklahoma doesn't have a pretty good offense, but that was pretty much the difference from there. And then Arkansas, they're a pretty solid team. I think you got to put Ole Miss here on upset alert. Arkansas has already pulled off a huge upset in the early part of the season. They did that against Tennessee back on September 21st or maybe September 28th, I believe. Or actually, it was in the month of October. October 5th was when Arkansas beat Tennessee. So I think you have to put the Rebels here on upset alert. I think Arkansas will try to run the football in this game and really waste the clock down and keep that Ole Miss offense off the field for as long as possible. But yeah, watch out for this one. This is a game to keep an eye on here. Arkansas definitely could pull off the upset here. I think you got to put Ole Miss here on upset alert here for week number 10. So this one's at noon Eastern time on ESPN. Next, we got the big one here. It's Ohio State at Penn State, also at noon Eastern time on Fox. So this is the big noon kickoff on Fox. Buckeyes favored by 4.5, and the over and under is at 47.5. Oh boy, this is going to be a good one, a top 5 matchup here. Rivalry game. It's a really intense rivalry, and it's also a very competitive game each and every single year. Even though the Buckeyes have dominated the series as of late, Penn State looks a lot different compared to the other matchups against Ohio State. I think this team's going to be really fired up. Now, last week, both of these teams did not really play that well. Ohio State coming off that sneaky close win against Nebraska, 21-17. And then Penn State kind of had to pull away late in that fourth quarter against Wisconsin. Drew Aller got hurt. That's going to be obviously the big question mark there. Is Drew Aller going to be able to play in this game? I really don't know as of this recording, but yeah, Penn State, I think you got to put Ohio State here on upset alert. This is definitely a big one. Kind of very important game here for both of these teams because you look at Ohio State, they could still make the playoff as a 10-2 team, but if they lose this game, they're definitely going to be out of that Big Ten championship. And then you got Penn State here. If they win this game, they definitely have an easy path to get to the Big Ten championship. But even if they lose this game, they'll still have a chance to make the playoff. But I think Penn State definitely wants to win this game. They've been, losing for so many years now, and Ohio State just continues to ruin Penn State's maybe playoff hopes, and then also maybe their Big Ten championship hopes as well. But this will be a very competitive game. It's going to be a hard-fought game. It's a noon game on Fox, and the Buckeyes are favored by 4.5. And then finally, we got Texas A&M at South Carolina. This one at 7:30 Eastern time on ABC. Texas A&M favored by 2.5, and the over and under is at 44.5. So kind of like similar to the LSU and Texas A&M game from last week. Texas A&M was on upset alert. This week they're on upset alert again, and they're playing in a very tough environment here. I know South Carolina is sitting there at 4-3, but this is not a bad South Carolina team. They're coming out of a bye week, so they've had some time to prepare here for this Texas A&M team. Texas A&M, they got Marcelo Reed that made the difference from last weekend. That'll be a question mark. Will it be Connor Weeman that starts, or will it be Marcelo Reed? I think they should go with Marcelo Reed because I think, with him running the football, it gets defenses some trouble, and I think it probably could be the case here with South Carolina. But I tell you what, South Carolina's got a pretty good shot here to pull off the upset. It's a night game at Columbia. It's one of the toughest places to play in the SEC. So, yeah, definitely put the Aggies here on upset alert and definitely keep an eye on this one. It wouldn't really shock me if South Carolina pulled off the upset, but Texas A&M is a playoff team, and they're definitely looking like it right here going into the month of November as they sit in the top 10 in the rankings. So those are my most likely upset alert games, and those are my upset alert games heading into week number 10 and also the first weekend here in the month of November. We could see a lot of upsets here in the month of November, so be sure to check it out and buckle up. It's going to be a really wild season, maybe the rest of the way. But give me your thoughts on these upset alert games down in the comments below. Who do you think is going to go down this weekend? Let me know down in the comments below. Thanks for watching this video, and stay tuned for more sports content videos on my Lucas Ross Sports YouTube channel.